Something like that.
I'll just have you do it.
So something you find from like a 1970s roller rink or something like that. Something that's
whatever you did was working. I think we'll just.
Oh yeah, that was good. Yeah, you can sample that and use it later. You have my permission. Something like that.
Oh, welcome to Talking Heads, everyone. Episode 303, your once-weekly live show for the latest in beer and tech news. I'm Jeff.
And I'm Steve.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us on this Wednesday night or in podcast form over on Anchor.fm or wherever your favorite podcasts are found. If you've never seen the show before, we talk beer, we talk tech, we talk games, pop culture, entertainment, usually some Star Trek, and tonight we're going to talk some very short treks, because I have some thoughts.
Okay.
All super chats
are very short.
Yes, all super chats are read on the air, so long as they will not permanently demonetize the channel. We do drink alcohol on the show, and if you're drinking along with us, alcoholic or not, let us know in the chat, and we'll give some early show shoutouts as we go along. Last but not least, if you'd like to take part in the super secret chat and the even more super secret after party, think about joining the Patreon. Link is down in the video description. As a bonus, you'll get exclusive access to my Discord server, where you can chat with myself, John, Rhett, Steve, all the hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that hangs out over there.
Yeah. I know we're supposed to be getting cooler weather, but man, for some reason, I'm really hot and I'm getting thirsty.
I am getting thirsty. I could definitely use a beer today.
Good.
And as luck would have it.
You want, yeah, we just have to be drinking. This is going to be a drinking show.
Yeah. So which glass are you using tonight? Because
okay. I got the craft computing glass.
Yep.
With the nucleated center.
Yeah.
Does John's have the?
It doesn't indeed. In fact, that's what I was going to bring up.
Of them, it's like hypnotism right there. Yeah. You put them on like that, it's going to be like beer goggle hypnotizing.
So now on craftcomputing.store, you can buy the craft computing pint glass, or you can buy the hops and brews pint glass. Look at that! Like,
I like how your octaves were just a little higher.
Right.
You know, it's got hops and brews.
It's cute. You know. But no, all the pint glasses, they do have the nucleated centers.
Yeah.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And John actually was saying like third party. Like, yes, his name's on this one now too, but. Like they work amazingly well. So if you want a pint glass that actually adds to your enjoyment of the beer, both of them are great options. Craftcomputing.store.
Gotta get that in there.
Anyway,
gotta get that. There you go.
Yeah, you seem rather excited to crack one open tonight. So
I
will
am.
let
like
you go
I said,
first.
I am very. I don't know why I'm so warm. It's supposed to be cooler weather. It's supposed to be getting cooler. But for some reason, I am just like hot down here.
By the way, if someone can tell me how to prevent this little window from popping up every time I go full screen on Zoom, I am all freaking ears.
Alt F4. You got to hit Alt F4.
Right.
Yeah. So this one beer that I have, I actually don't even know the name of it. I think it's called Hamburg Germany, which makes you think it's a German beer, but it's not. It's a double dry hopped IPA, but this is the label. Whoops, let me see if I can show you the label. So you gotta get there we go. It looks like a bag of grain.
Okay.
And it's got all this writing on it, so I'm not too sure what the name of it's supposed to be.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The only thing I make out is just Hamburg, Germany, so I'm guessing that's what it is. But it does have a lot of interesting hops in here, and that's why I kind of got it. It's double dry hopped. But it's got the Motica Sub-Zero, which I've never heard of before, the Hopkeef, and the New Zealand Cascade. So pretty interesting profile. So I'm gonna go for that one first. But my second one, because John pimped it out so much on the Discord, I picked it up. So I'm gonna give it a shot.
You found one.
We all know it and love it. Yes, I found the Imperial Dead Guy IPA.
Nice.
The highest ABV per cost effective liquid you can buy right now. That's a craft brew, I think.
It's definitely up there. I mean, 9.6. What is it? 250 for a pint.
Yeah, it was like 260 or something, 250, 260.
Yeah, so it's up there with a lot of the heavy hitters. You've got Lagunitas Colossus, or Maximus.
Yeah.
You've got sometimes at like $2.99 you can get Ninkasi Megalodon, which is 10%, but it's kind of few and far between up in that 10%er for $2.50.
Yeah, we're quickly approaching malt liquor levels here with IPAs
right.
that are like being really cheap. Pretty soon, the alcoholics and drink of choice is going to be tall boy IPAs. And then they can say it's a hobby. They're not alcoholics. It's just a hobby.
There you go.
I like IPAs.
So instead of coming down with the Old English 40 or something like that in the paper, do you make sure to take it out of the paper bag and make sure people?
Oh yeah, you have to let everybody know.
Right, exactly.
That you like IPAs.
It's not a craft beer unless you tell everyone that it's a craft beer, right?
Yeah, you let everybody know it's a craft beer. You just have to cover the 9.6% so people don't know, right?
If a hipster opens an IPA in a forest, does it make a sound?
Oh no, it doesn't.
I think it does because this is craft, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. I'm gonna open one myself here. Okay. I've got a Portland, Oregon Level Brewing.
Oh yeah, we love Level beer. Go hef yourself.
Go hef yourself.
Nice. I love a good hef though.
Yes. So this is 5.1% traditional German style wheat beer. Had this on tap up at Level Beer this last month. Didn't know they sold it in cans. Bought it in cans from the brewery there and been working on the 4-pack, and this is the final one. So,
nice.
Figured I'd give that a go. I'm gonna do this one in the old Hops and Brews.
No, Hops and Brews. Okay.
The old Hops and Brews pint.
Now this is more of the traditional style.
Yes.
German hef, right? So it's got the banana esters and everything.
Correct.
Like on there. Yeah.
Yeah. Because this is the German purity law Hefeweizen. Right. This is not your American hef or Hefe, whatever the bloody hell Widmer tries to call it. Like, don't get me wrong, Widmer's not a bad hef.
No.
But traditional versus American definitely hits a little bit different. And Level definitely tries to go more for the traditional, crystal clear.
Yes. Not the cloudy, weeded
hops. Barley. Malt.
I don't even know how Widmer got away with it for so long.
Yeah,
calling that a Hefeweizen.
Yeah. Well, it's because
for the longest.
Think back to when Widmer Hef came into the scene. Who was making a lot of German beer?
Nobody was making German beer. No one was making it. Now, to be fair, they did call it American Hefeweizen.
Correct.
So it's American style. So they just made it up.
Right.
So wheat beer, but it's a wheat beer that tastes nothing like a traditional German hef.
Correct.
Not a bad beer. It's tasty.
Right.
But it doesn't taste like anything like a traditional German Hefeweizen.
Can I say, I am a little biased because I kind of took John's artwork and put it on the glass, but I am so jazzed about how good that came out.
It does look good.
Like, because it's on both sides, you get the bunny looking through the bottle cap. Like, that's just awesome. But it just looks so good. I am so envious of John's glass.
I would say that you can see the bubbles coming up, but it's so hazy you can't see.
Yeah,
can't see anything on mine. But there's definitely still a head being retained.
Here you go. This kind of shows
you can definitely see it.
What it does. So this is the nucleated bottom of the Craft Computing pint glass and the Hops and Brews pint glass. Again, with that raised octave. But you can see what it does. It adds nucleation sites. It constantly refreshes the head on your beer. So whereas this would normally be dead flat on top because it's only a 5%er, it's actually retaining some of that and refreshing your aromatics as you go through and drink. So makes it mo better.
Yeah, this one is actually quite good. For a double dry hop, I would expect this to be more citrus forward. But I would say it's more. I mean, there's some piney elements from the hops in there. Some citrus, but it's almost got a slight melon flavor to it too. So I think the hop profile that they used was going for more melon, like a little bit of kind of honeydew cassava type of a melon. Very good, very interesting.
I
It
do
doesn't
I
punch
do
you in the
like
face.
that kind of hop profile.
Yeah.
When you get more of like the melon and the honeydew and
Hmm. Hmm.
kind of that. It's a nice change of pace for an IPA,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. It's not a big citrus bomb, which I like citrus bombs. They're
Hmm.
good, but this is not it. It's a lot more subdued, and I kind of enjoy it.
Nice.
I'm also kind of surprised none of us brought a fresh hop beer because this is fresh hop season,
I had
and
one
we
last
do
week.
live. Oh, you
I
did?
did.
Okay. All right.
No, I did the tropical fresh from Deschutes this
Okay.
week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's fresh hop season.
Yes. Oh no. I one of my favorite Brewfest is coming up
It's the most
next week, I
wonderful
believe.
time of the year.
The
That's not a Christmas song around here.
yes, the Fresh Hop Brewfest is one of my absolute favorites.
Hmm. What weekend is that? I might have to get away.
It's next weekend.
Oh,
I
okay.
believe it's next weekend. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. St. Paul. Yeah.
Maybe I will see you there.
I don't know if John. I think John's going. I'm not 100% sure,
Okay.
but I know I'm going.
Cool. Let's see. We do have a couple beer shout outs. Pat is having an inbound brew company, contains nuts peanut butter milk stout.
Oh, nice.
Williams got a Polliner in Munich, the Oktoberfest Märzen, 5.8.
That's a good one.
Jason's got a Banded Brewing Jolly Woodsman Coffee Stout, 7.5%.
Mm-hmm.
Skull is going with the heavy hand here, drinking an Evil Twin Strawberry Jelly Donut Even More Jesus, 12%.
Wow. I have not even heard of that one. I've seen a lot of the more Jesus ones, but
Yeah,
strawberry donut, I have not.
yes.
I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, that's a new one for me. I've had a couple from the Even More Jesus packs or the Even More Jesus series.
Mm-hmm.
Skullsies has a Confluence, 6.9%. John is having a Julius by Treehouse Brewing. That's a fantastic IPA. 4.5 out of 5 on Untapped with 150,000 check-ins. That is not an anomaly.
Yeah. No, Treehouse is well, I think they're Midwest, right?
No, Treehouse is Rhode Island.
Oh, is it Rhode? Oh, they're all in Rhode Island. Okay, but they're like the East Coast's Great Notion, basically.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't distribute hardly at all,
No.
and everything they press out of there is just gold. So
Yeah, and it's highly sought after by beer drinkers.
yeah, it's one of the few beers I have to go 1-to-1 with with Great Notion trades.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Novella's got a Lord Hobo Banger Number 7 Double IPA, clocking in at 8%, and Vince chiming in with his liquid of choice tonight. Let's see, standing outside in the rain, and now he's wet and cold.
Oh. Yep. The rainy season's back, guys.
That's right. So I'm a migraine sufferer, and one of my triggers is pressure changes. And so
season changes, yeah.
Not even season changes, just
Or just pressure.
different storm fronts rolling in. And so the last 72 hours has been every 12 up down up down up down. Once we level off and we're solidly into rain season, it's fine, but there's always like a week in the fall and a week in the spring that is just utter hell for me, and that's been this week.
Yeah, we've had a little bit of a storm front coming in.
Yep.
The atmospheric river, as they describe it.
Yes. Well, it's not necessarily that a storm rolls in, because like, oh, a storm's rolling in, my head's gonna hurt for 2 or 3 hours. It's a storm's gonna roll in, and then it's gonna be sunny, and then another storm's gonna roll in, and then it's gonna be sunny, and then thunderstorms and wind like you've never seen, and then it's gonna be sunny, and it does that every 12 hours.
That's basically what this week has been so far. It's exactly what it's been.
And Mario chiming in with a $28 Canadian super chat. Thank you so much, Mario. Open a few cold ones on our dime. Hi from Calgary, Alberta. Winter is coming. Maybe snow in the Rockies tonight. Remember us over the wall. We shall. Thank you so much for the round. Much appreciated.
Cheers.
Yes. God, that's a good hef. That is such a good hef.
I do love a good hef.
It's not... A lot of the American hefts, they try to be very pilsnery in their presentation. It's a little bit more, they think, oh, wheat ale. And so they go for that bready, biscuity kind of, but very dry front bite on it. So it makes it very crisp and refreshing, you know, kind of like a 7-Up would be.
Yeah.
This is actually very muted up front. It's much more of a clingy, wet, heavier beer, even at just 5%. And then it kind of opens up into those esters and that banana and allspice kind of note in the middle of it. Not an overly refreshing beer, but a very filling beer.
Very, and just so tasty.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's not something you want to chug, but man, they taste so good.
Mm-hmm.
I have brewed a couple of Hefeweizens before. Both times they turned out absolutely great, but you kind of have to do them in the summertime because they have to ferment at a higher temperature to get those
correct
banana esters of spice esters in it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just going to taste like a Widmer Hefeweizen. It's going to taste kind of like, oh, there's some beer with some hops in it. Okay.
Yep. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get to the news. Starting with, there's a little bit of a leak coming out from Intel on their next generation Xeon chips, but we actually have news that relates to the next couple of months here, and that is Intel's been going through a little bit of a renaissance, a change as of late, as they've it's a well-trodden path that we've talked about Intel and their adherence to their core architecture, basically their Nehalem to Sandy Bridge, and then Sandy Bridge to whatever the heck 10th and 11th gen were. Basically the same architecture, just, you know, processed down. The problem is, once they hit 14 nanometer, they hit a snag. They couldn't shrink it again. And AMD came up and passed them. And and that happened between 2017 and 2020. And since 2020, it's been kind of AMD's game to lose, which they've done a mighty fine job of not like seizing control of the marketplace. But Intel in those 3 years have really gone back to the drawing board and are coming up with some really novel concepts. Obviously led by AMD with their chiplet designs. Intel's kind of taken some of those aspects. Thank you, Jim Keller, for jumping back over to Team Blue and kind of bringing the whole chiplet, or as Intel calls it now, tile architecture. That is spreading out creating smaller dies that are more purpose-built and being able to stack them onto a single piece of substrate. Putting them all onto a package, connecting them with an I/O die, and now you have better binning, faster parts, less expense, less waste, and everyone wins. And it's a fantastic idea in how to implement it. We do know that Intel's upcoming Meteor Lake architecture is going to be tile-based, and in fact, we covered it I think last week on the channel, that the thing I was most excited for was they're putting a dedicated tile for their GPU onto their mobile chips, at least their higher end mobile chips. So that could actually herald an era of near discrete level desktop GPU levels of compute for gaming on the mobile side of things. It's been up in the air whether or not the upcoming desktop launch, 14th gen desktop, was going to use tiles, though. Unfortunately, the Meteor Lake architecture is skipping socketed CPUs this time around. And so while it will use the architectural improvements of Meteor Lake, it is not going to be tile-based, at least this time.
No.
So Intel's been a little bit coy about that. Is it going to be chiplet-based or tile-based on the desktop side of things for 14th generation? And the answer right now is looking no. They are still going to be large, massive dies, single chips on the desktop side of things. Tiles are coming to mobile, and likely with 15th gen, at least if you read the room, 15th gen, we will start to see tiles approaching the desktop Not the tiles aren't present in other ecosystems, as we've seen with Sapphire Rapids on Intel's Xeon lineup. 56 cores of performance cores based off Raptor Lake, Alder Lake CPU dies. And those have been quite performant. And in fact, they're doing some really cool things over there with implementing 64 gigabytes of HBM2 memory onto their CPU. So you don't even need RAM to boot up in the system. You just plop a CPU down and it's got 64 gigs of memory right off the bat.
It's got enough to go, yeah. Set it and forget it. It's the Ron Popeil of processors.
Just wait 10 minutes, you got a delicious roast. Yes, I'm old enough to have watched those infomercials.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if everyone...
Just set it and forget it! Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh. Back when you paid a live studio audience to watch a 30-minute infomercial.
Yeah. That's right. Because they promised them, like, you know, free... There's probably, like, some Vegas things like, oh, well, you get a free show in Vegas if you come watch this schlop.
Right. We'll get to Penn and Teller in just a minute, but first I want to tell you about this glorified toaster oven.
Yeah, exactly. It's a toaster oven, but you can skewer things and turn it while it's toasting things.
I believe they call it just set it and forget it, Steve.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Anyway, so a little bit disappointing that we're not going to see all of the fruits of Intel's last 3 to 4 years of development in desktops this time around. However, it's not like we're not going to get latest and greatest tech. There's still going to be core development. We're still seeing Meteor Lake as far as the core development architecture, just they're not going so far as to splitting it into the tiles and subdividing their actual CPU processes. So not the end of the world. And in fact, I didn't put a story on here, but I guess there was a leaked 14th gen benchmark that shredded single-threaded performance that hit Geekbench earlier this week.
So it's not like we're losing out. The desktop enthusiasts are not losing out.
Right.
We still got some nice candy treats.
Right. Why did I not put that story on here? Well, because obviously your flagship part is going to be faster than your last flagship part. Like, I hate news articles that do that. I hate talking about it. Apple standing on stage. This is the fastest chip we've ever made. I sure hope so. I sure hope you did better than last year.
This one's slightly slower.
Right.
But it's got more bling. You know, it's like, you know, who cares? You know. Right.
Yes, your latest flagship is the fastest thing you've ever made.
Right.
That's kind of the point.
Yeah. You probably would not be announcing it if it wasn't so.
Yep. I really wish that companies would do more marketing in the mid-range. In some of the other areas, like, look, the 13400, it's not going to win an all-out drag race against, you know, a 7950X 3D or a 13900K. But what it does do is turbo to 4.6, and it is the fastest chip we've ever made for $199. Like, I wish there was more marketing around stuff like that.
That type of a thing, yeah.
Right, because...
I guess maybe it's just because it's not as exciting. I don't know. It's. I mean, yes, it's practical, and the people who want it will seek it out. But I guess it just doesn't have the same sizzle as, like, your flagship, right?
And it never does, but you're selling bulk on 13400s. You're not selling bulk on 13900s. Yeah. They'd like to. Trust me, Intel would love to be able to...
I mean, I guess you're right. There should be a market for mid-range competition, right? I mean, you want to be able to say, like, our mid-range is still better than their mid-range, right? It's like, it's just slightly better, but it's like, you're going to save a little bit of money and you'll still get this better performance and you're going to get it better than our competition.
Right. And I wish someone would just start focusing on the mid-range again. Someone, anyone. I don't care if you're a car company. I don't care how fast your EV goes. What I want to know is, can you get me there efficiently, and can I do 300 miles? I don't care how fast your $700 flagship CPU is. I want to know what I can get for $250.
Right. No, I've always sought out cost to performance ratios, like good cost to performance ratios. Yes, I'm not going to ever have the highest end chip that just released honestly, most people don't. I mean, some people have that kind of money, but I don't have that
I say
kind of
that with a
money just to do it.
5950X in this system and a
Yeah,
3900K
yeah,
across the room. But still, if I'm building a PC for myself, or I'm giving recommendations for things to buy,
Yes.
I actually I've been doing more and more little bit of contract work on the side lately. I got someone who requested. There's a school district in the area who wants to start up an esports gaming league, and they wanted 4 desktops for doing competitive gaming. And they went, look, we're willing to throw some money at this, but we're not going to do $4,000 per system. So we don't want like custom water cooled and
right.
But it's like
just something that'll play everything that everybody's playing, but it's not going to break the bank.
Literally, they're looking for 1440p, medium settings, 144 hertz.
See, even 144p, that seems to be a little bit overkill for me, even now with competitive gaming.
Most competitive games are played at 1080p, and it's 144 or 240 hertz. If you've got something like League of Legends, you'll up it to 1440, get a little bit better pixel density kind of thing. But you're still in that 140 to 250 FPS range.
Yes.
You're not playing at max settings. You're playing at medium detail. And so I went, well, do I price out at 13900K system at $670 per chip? Or do I go 13400 and instead of a 5.2 gigahertz boost, I get a 4.6? But the chip is only $240.
Right.
We're going to go that route.
That's completely fine.
Oh, and by the way, we don't need exotic cooling to make it work either. So I can slap a $50 box cooler on it and call it a day. And I just saved them $500 in costs they would never see the benefit of.
Yeah, there's definitely diminishing returns when you go like one step further in those.
Did I go 4090? No, of course not. I went 4070.
Yeah.
In my quote, I did throw 32 gigs of RAM at it. We've got some good 32 gigs. DDR4 again.
Nice. Yeah.
There's no, if you're not going to stretch the legs of the and memory bandwidth.
Yeah, you don't need the higher end.
There are so few tasks that actually take advantage of DDR5 memory bandwidth, and so few DDR5 kits that can go above 6,000, that if you've got a really good kit of like 4,000 DDR4, perfect.
You're gonna be fine. Yeah, you're gonna be fine.
Half the cost. So we went DDR4. We did invest in some good SSDs. We've got Gen 4x4 2 terabyte SSDs in this thing, so you can throw whatever games, whatever settings, all of the Call of Duties installed all at once. You could do it.
Oh yeah, there you go. You got it.
Because SSDs are cheap now, so why not throw $100 in an SSD at this machine that needs to last for a number of years?
That's one of the things because I was talking to my nephew too about, and I've seen this in a lot of schools now, which I wish they had something like this when I was going to school.
Right?
Like e-leagues, but that was never a concept.
We had to sneak off and play Doom.
Yeah, I mean, okay. To be fair, yes, okay, yeah. There wasn't that many competitive games, but I mean, there was like Street Fighter, and I think I did in high school. They did have a Tetris tournament, and I did win that.
Nice.
So I was the Tetris champion in high school. But yeah, that was about it. But it wasn't official. It was just a bunch of us nerds who were getting in the computer lab and playing Tetris. They're like, "Oh, let's go have a tournament," Yeah, no, I wish they had something like that, but I guess there was just not enough competitive games at the time to really suss that out. But yeah, I've seen that a lot now. Competitive esports in schools. As I don't know, is it a class or is it like a after school activity?
It's an after school activity. It's extracurricular. And a lot of schools are putting sports budgets at this, so they're willing to hire a coach. They're willing to spend some money on equipment.
Do they still make them at least go out and run laps or something like that?
I have no idea. I have no idea if there's a physical aspect of this, but it's
like they get a little keyboard with a really high spring and they got to do like.
But what I'm seeing is it's not like the chess clubs or the debate teams where you barely want to pay the teacher's salary to babysit the kids afterwards and please cover your own transportation to events. It's like, no, we understand there's an equipment cost. Tell you what, we'll put $12,000 into hardware, and then we'll hire not only a teacher to oversee this, but we'll also like get you guys training in the games and like hire coaches and things like that. Like there's actually being some money put into things like this.
I wonder, I could get some an extra gig. I could be a esports coach for the high school. Just come in with my one-piece tracksuit. Listen up, nerds. We're gonna
hear you walking down the hall.
We're gonna be doing 50 rounds of Dust 2.
No one leave this room until everyone's KD is 175 or above.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna have a nice gold medallion with WASD on it right there.
Flava Frag.
Yeah, Flava Frag. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, there's actually some fun things going on, and because they're looking at this as more of a sports thing rather than it's just the nerds who are wanting to do it. It's the only reason band or like marching band ever got any consideration for any kind of budget in school when I was there, is because we went to marching band competitions and it counted as a sports competition. And so you got sports money thrown at it. They didn't pay for our jazz combo to travel around the state, but
if there's
but
more and more schools,
they sent us to like 4 states for marching band competitions.
If there's more and more schools doing that, if it's an esports thing, they must be competing with other schools, right?
Right, exactly. And so there's being leagues formed, depending on schools. So they're trying to do, as far as I understand, they're looking at doing a game per quarter. And so like first quarter will be Dota 2. And then they'll do a CS:GO, and then they'll do this, and then they'll do that, and so it'd be a year-round competition, or a school year-wide competition. But then every 6 to 8 weeks they swap out for a different game.
Does that mean they can letter in esports?
I believe it does.
Can you get the little joystick badge or something like that on your jacket, your letterman's jacket? That's awesome, dude.
and I thought me as a 9-time letterman, 7-time letterman, and 3 of them being sports, but all the sports were for marching band. CS:GO got retired today. Don't beat me to the fun part. We're
gonna get to that eventually. Yeah. Gosh, calm down.
We did get a super chat from Green. Thank you very much. $5. Found out 16-player Mario Kart Double Dash was natively supported on the GameCube and can technically be done in emulation. That'd be really fun to see in action in Dolphin.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I wonder if it wasn't implemented because it was just probably would just take the GameCube to its knees.
Probably. So with Double Dash, it's 8 carts with 2 players on each cart.
Oh, okay.
And so now you, instead of 16-player, even Mario Kart 8 is 12-player on Switch. So yeah, I can't imagine doing 16 on GameCube without doing Double Dash, doubling them up.
Yeah, it would kind of be a little crazy. Mm-hmm. I don't even think it's enough. Was there enough? I don't know. I have to go back and look. I'm not extremely well versed in my lore of Mario Kart, but I don't think there was enough characters to really support that. They'd probably have to double up, or was there more than 16 characters?
No, there were more than 16 characters.
Okay.
And so that's when they introduced the baby versions of the characters. So you had Mario and Baby Mario, and Peach and Baby Peach, and Bowser and Bowser Jr. and all those other combinations. There were something like 24 or 30 characters in GameCube,
okay.
I believe. It's been a while since I played the GameCube version, but
yeah, no, I was like, I kind of stopped paying attention after the Nintendo 64 version. I mean, when it was ever available, I would play it, but I kind of lost.
Richard asks a quick question. I'm moving 10 terabytes worth of data from one worth of data from one server to another using rclone. I'm getting a bunch of checksum errors as part of the transfer. Do I restart or do less? It all depends on what the checksum errors are, because if you're trying to like copy attributes, if you're not copying attributes, if you're not copying write on, create date, modified, that kind of data, when it goes to do a checksum after the file has been written, if the metadata is different, you're going to get a different checksum value. And so the best way to do an rclone is push the data up and then do a resync 2 or 3 times if you want to ensure that all the data is there.
Yeah.
And if you have errors, find out which specific files are erroring. Get a complete list, because you should be able to get a differential list of this is the files that we sent and these are the conflicts that exist as far as A versus B didn't quite match up.
The delta between the two. Yeah.
Go manually check. If it's a couple of bytes, you're talking about a random. Like I said, a little bit of metadata being changed, or a create date having a different value or something like that. If you have a kilobyte worth of bits being flipped, you have a problem with your network. But yeah, so check the differential, check the log when it's all done, and manually check, and don't be afraid to resync and do a push only. So push and force overwrite, and see if make sure it's all there. All right. In other Intel news, we did get a sneak peek kind of leak at Intel's upcoming Emerald Rapids CPU in the Xeon Platinum 8580. So this is the next generation from Sapphire Rapids already.
Yeah.
And the 8580, now there have been no specific SKUs released by Intel regarding core counts or cache values or frequencies or anything else. However, Video Cards says that there's been an ES2 variant of the chip. So that's an engineering sample 2, which is typically the correct core count. They've dialed in what number of cores they're going to leave active on the different SKUs. And they just aren't sure on the frequency or the exact power consumption yet. And so those will be dialed in the ES2 phase. So this is not a qualified engineering sampler, a QS chip, where a lot of that data is usually set in stone, plus or minus 10% on the frequency. So Emerald Rapids, Xeon Platinum 8580, 60 cores, which is an increase from the 56 of Sapphire Rapids, up to 350 watt TDP, and a combined 420 megabytes of L2 and L3 cache. 300 of that is L3 and 120 is L2. Those are still pretty significant numbers considering the platform. Now, again, this is an upgrade of the Sapphire Rapids chip. So this is the, 5th generation scalable Xeon CPU. So 60 cores, 120 threads. The most interesting aspect of this, outside of the verified cache number of 420 megabytes, is, remember, these are Raptor Cove CPU cores based on Raptor Lake. So 13th generation Intel core CPUs. This is not a performance versus efficiency. This isn't like 24 performance and blah, blah, blah. No, this is 60 P cores. 60 performance Raptor Lake cores.
Yep. Big ones. Big boys.
So, again, very much like Sapphire Rapids, but it's easy to get confused with all the different lineups coming out, especially with Intel starting to introduce efficiency cores, a la their 288 efficiency core chip that they launched just this last week. 2.6 size cache increase compared to Sapphire Rapids. Sapphire Rapids was like, what, 156 megabytes of cache combined, so 420 megabytes combined. That is a huge step up.
Yeah, that's a big step up.
Still shying behind Epic Genoa.
Yeah,
although
Epic is a lot higher. I think it's like 1 point something gig, I think.
Yeah,
combined,
up to
combined,
1.5 gigabit of gigabytes of L3, but also keep in mind those are on 96 and 128 core systems, or CPUs rather. So core for core, still lagging behind.
It is, but I mean, it's getting up there.
Yeah,
exciting, but you know, not quite dialed in yet.
It is really interesting to me where the server CPU market is going, specifically with this generation, because we haven't seen a lot of variance for a number of years. Like, there's always been the one or two really weird SKUs from Intel, like the 2687W series of CPUs comes to mind.
Yeah.
Where for the first 4 generations of Intel Xeon in the core series of the family, those were supposed to be workstation chips. And so they came out with 8 cores, an unlocked TDP, and turbos pushing into the 3.6 gigahertz range, where, sure, the 2690 could hit 3 gigahertz or 3.2 on a single core, but it couldn't hold it across all of its cores.
No.
Whereas the W series, the one chip, was designed to be like, no, 8 cores as fast as we can go. We're seeing a lot more variance in CPUs, and in fact, we're starting to see completely different lines of server CPUs starting to fill some different markets instead of just saying Xeon and then having 30 SKUs within Xeon. We're starting to see, oh, we're going to have an efficient one that's aimed at telecommunication. We're going to have one that's aimed at high performance and AI. We're going to have another that's based for virtualization. I have a video coming out tomorrow that it won't specifically touch on this aspect of it, but remember, at the cores of all of these, they're just x86 CPUs. They're genericized, generic instructions, multi-purpose, brute force CPUs.
Yeah, brute force, whatever.
That just because Intel comes up with a 288 core chip designed for telecommunication in mind, that means they're trying to fulfill a need in telecommunication, not that telecommunication is the only thing that chip will ever be used for.
Right.
So in the future, we might be able to find 288 core Xeons and load them up with virtual machines.
Do whatever you want with them, yeah.
So I have a video coming out tomorrow, which is going to be a lot of fun. That kind of breaks down like the rules get less defined and less strict the lower in the power curve you go. And this has everything to do with like all aspects of a system, from its designed purpose to its TDP to its cooling requirements to what software you run on it to what's it designed to do. Because what it's designed to do is entirely marketing terms.
Yeah.
What this can do is anything any other x86 can do.
It's up to you. I mean, it's up to you what you want to toy with and see what you can eke out of it. Yeah. No, I know. I remember lots of use cases. I remember, like, what was it? Back in the day, there was somebody who found, like, a bunch of old modems that had, like, a 486 CPU inside of it. And it's like, well, let's just rip those out and just have fun with it, or just mess around with it. So, yeah, use cases is up to you. The rest was marketing. Doesn't mean you have to do with it whatever it said it was, even its original built purpose.
Yep. So there's a lot more to the discussion as well. I go into ECC memory, I go into storage controllers, I go into TDPs, I go into cooling, I go into form factors, and it's a good video. So I won't spoil any more of it, but it's a fun one. Let's see. How far into your beer are you? I'm getting close.
I'm about halfway here. I'm savoring. This is like one of the best IPAs I've actually had in a long time, to be quite honest.
Nice.
I mean, well, okay, the last week, let's see, no, wasn't that last week, or was it the week before? When was Oktoberfest? I went to Oktoberfest.
Oh, okay, that was 3 weeks ago.
Well, no, when was it?
Yeah, it was like September 9th.
Oh, that's right. No, it was 2 weeks ago. That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and then the week after that, yeah, because no, I had a lot of German beers then, and then it was my son's birthday, and we were out of town doing fun stuff with him, and I really didn't drink too much beer. But yeah, no, this is like the best IPA I've had in like maybe a month, probably. I'm gonna say, yeah. So I'm like kind of savoring it.
As Nicolas Cage would say, that's high praise.
It's high praise.
It's high praise. Yeah. Let's see, did I miss something here? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What was I talking about? I had a thought, and then it just...
I don't know. You were talking about beer, because I think you were going to switch to the beer? Or?
I was talking about beer.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going... I've been doing a lot of talking, and I'm still beating you. Kind of goes back to our thoughts about the Hefeweizen of like, it's a 5%. It's not like the most refreshing or effervescent or crisp or whatever, but man, you just want to gulp it down. Like,
no, I know, that's the thing. It's the flavor is so good that after you take a sip, you want to take another sip. It's just it's just a good tasting beer.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to trying to get to. Sorry, people are bringing up Xeon Phi's in the chat here. I was trying to keep up with that. Xeon D. Vince brought up Xeon D. Do you remember what Xeon D was?
Was that? I remember because I never got one. We had Xeon workstations, and it wasn't a D. I can't remember. No, I don't remember Xeon.
So Pentium came out with the Pentium D, and the original Pentium.
I remember the Pentium D.
The original Pentium D was the Pentium dual core.
Yes.
This has nothing to do with that. And so the D moniker in Xeon D, I forget what they said it stood for, but essentially they took the Xeon name, which was like, 95 watts and server grade and everything else, and they took Atom CPUs, and they made a 35 watt variant of an Atom. And
yes, I'm looking at this. Okay, now
and so you had CPUs like the 1541D, which was a Xeon D CPU. It was 8 cores and 16 threads, but ran at 35 watts, could turbo to like 3.2 gigahertz. Like no Atom you've ever heard of, right?
No, absolutely not.
Super, super cool. We used a bunch of them as development servers. And so for testing VMs and interacting and getting like network setups and things like that, we would build VMs on Xeon D servers because you could have 8 of them in a stack and your entire stack is drawing 300 watts.
Yeah, it's sipping that juice.
Right. and so it wasn't a worry of like having like these massive dev environments and needing, an entire rack of... It's like, I just need 8 cores and I need enough threads and enough memory. And you could throw 128 or 256 gigs of memory into these things. And that's all you needed for an environment like that. For just basic testing purposes. We're not going live to clients. We're just testing the interactions of these servers and making sure they all communicate before we deploy them. So they were designed for Facebook and very fast client interaction. So before ARM really made its way into data centers with low power stuff, you were using Xeon Ds. And in fact, you could put 2 of them in a 1U server because they were coming out on ITX boards. And if you don't need storage interfaces or you just need like a little local boot drive, you throw a 64 gig SSD for a boot disk in there or even an SD card, and you boot to a local environment and you that's your compute node. And
there it is.
They work fantastic for that. So we used them as a VM dev environment, but they were designed for Facebook client access.
Really?
There you go.
But yeah, you can use case them for whatever you want.
It's just
that's really cool.
It's just x86 hardware.
Yeah. What do you got there?
This is a Zima blade.
A Zima blade.
Is a sub $100 4-core system.
Not Zima as in the drink Zima.
Zima as in the drink Zima, not the same company, but Zima.
Really?
Yeah. But
hopefully it tastes better.
DDR3 SODIMM supports up to 16 gigs of memory, 4-core, 4-thread, draws only 10 watts of power, passively cooled. PCI Express X4.
I was going to say, what's that bus right there? Yeah.
PCI Express 2.0, X4,
okay.
Gigabit Ethernet, USB 3, USB-C for power, and a pair of SATA ports.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
$96.
That's like that's cheaper than Raspberry Pis now.
It really is. And so consider this. So it doesn't ship with the memory, but you can get it's 8 gigs of LPDDR3. It's like $8 a stick.
Yeah, I know. I got some of that laying around here.
You can throw up to 16 gigs into it. By the way, they also make a dual core version of this for $65, and the dual core is still faster than the Raspberry Pi 4 with 4 cores.
Nice.
But these also come with the USB-C and the power and the cooling because the case is the cooler.
Right.
These are way faster than Raspberry Pis and expandable.
Best is expandable. Yeah, that's crazy cool.
So that's partially what this video is about.
That's awesome. How come I have never heard of these before? Is this brand new?
It's an expansion on the Zima board, which came out last year-ish.
Okay.
And so, similar form factor, PCI Express X4. They went a little hog wild with the I/O, and then they went, do we really you don't need two the I/O? And they soldered the memory, and they did other things like that. They said, what if we unsoldered the memory and let people add 16 gigs, and then instead of selling these for $200, we sold them for $65.
Now you're talking. Now you got to market.
Right. So yeah, those are cool. And that's partially what this video is about too.
I think I can look that up.
I'm excited.
Zima. So when you search for Zima, you get the drink, not the...
Right. Zima Blade, all one word. ZIMA-BLADE. Or Zima Board. We'll get you to the company is Zima
Board. When I do Zima Blade, one word, I get Zimbabwe.
Also, yes. Yeah.
Zima Board.
Yeah, their SEO is not the best.
Zima Board is better. Yeah, Zima Board gets me there.
Yes. So, no, really cool systems.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we'll talk about the next story, and then I'll open my next beer.
Okay.
I think we'll do that. Samsung, not to be outdone by Dell, has been developing their own modular memory replacement for the long overdue SODIMM. SODIMM has been around
a while, I want to say.
You could buy PC 133 on SODIMM.
Yeah, it's been around for a while.
Now the pins have changed; they've increased the number of pins, but the form factor, this form factor of replaceable laptop mobile memory, has been around since the 90s, and the form factor has not changed. It's the same footprint.
Yeah, it started out with 72 pins, so it's like it's been around for a while.
Right. Yeah. Now they're up to what, 144? No, 208. I think is the
204. 262.
Oh, that's right. 262 for DDR5.
Yeah.
204 for DDR4.
Yes. No, 204 for DDR3.
DDR3.
I'm looking this up.
Okay.
So yeah, because I couldn't remember either, because I know it's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But, yeah, 260 for DDR4.
Oh, that's right. 260. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a generation behind.
Yeah.
Anyway, SODIMM has been around for a while. Now, we've talked about a number of different aspects relating to why SODIMM maybe isn't the best form factor for memory moving forward without necessarily talking about SODIMM. We've talked about it for networking cables. It's really easy to push 100 megs over Cat5.
Yeah.
It starts to get difficult to push 1 gig over Cat5. That's why Cat5e was created, because you have to maintain the twists in you have to twist your pairs and make sure that they don't crosstalk between pairs electrically in flight. And you have voltage drop, which is which is pretty severe over Cat5, over the gauge of wire that it uses. So you need to make sure that the voltage doesn't drop, which is why there's a 100-meter hard cap. It's partially because of data integrity and continuity. It's also partially because there's only so many volts that you can throw over that and still carry data along with the information.
And not have it catch fire, yeah.
Right. And so, so Cat5e was kind of the solution for maintaining gigabit over 100 meters of length. Well, what happens when we go 2.5 gig? Well, Cat5e can still handle it, but it starts to have some trouble at the back end, even with some really good cables. And so Cat6 was introduced. It's a little bit tighter bends, more twists per foot in the cable, and they supposedly electrically isolate the 4 pairs from each other. However, that really doesn't happen until you get to Cat6a, where each twisted pair is sleeved and insulated from the other 3 twisted pairs within the cable. And so you can reliably get up to 10 gig on Cat6a. But it is also insanely difficult to terminate because you have to maintain the twisted pair up to 4 millimeters of the termination point.
Okay.
So you have half a
little
centimeter.
tiny bits.
Yeah, you have half a centimeter where you can untwist your cables and jam them into an RJ45 port.
Right.
And then the cable that's being plugged in still has to be a Cat6a cable to maintain continuity of data. And that little bit of a break in the twist can actually interrupt a 10 gig stream. Yeah. It's really fascinating when you realize we're pushing literally 1,000 times the data on 10 gig versus 100 meg over the same cable with the same gauge wiring, and how much more difficult it's become. On to SODIMM.
Yeah.
72 pins, 3.3 volts. Like, yeah, we're living the high life, YOLO, whatever. We're only running at 100 megahertz or 133 megahertz bus speeds anyway. Like,
yeah, who cares?
Who cares about data? The memory could be on the other side of the room. We're gonna get the same latency as if it were in the chassis with it. DDR comes in, increases the bus speed to 333 and then to 400. DDR2 increases it to 800. DDR3 increases to 1600 and even 1866. DDR4, we're talking 3200 and 3600 megahertz.
Yep.
Now, in this case, I'm actually talking megahertz. I'm not talking mega transfers per second, which is
megahertz.
Megahertz. Interestingly enough, it's way more complicated to maintain data integrity on PCB traces at 3600 megahertz than it was 133 megahertz. Well,
imagine that, right?
Along comes DDR5, and the reason a lot of motherboard manufacturers, specifically with laptops and tablets and phones and whatnot, have been soldering memory direct to motherboards, on top of making it difficult for consumers to repair them, it's actually to maintain signal integrity and shorten the length of travel time from one end of the memory trace to the CPU. It's literally that for that reason.
It's like distance thing. This is a real physical thing.
Right. We're running out of distance to make it from the CPU to DDR5 memory and back, and maintaining a signal integrity that can hit 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, 7,600 megahertz of DDR speeds. That's why the only time, specifically in laptops, you're ever going to see DDR5 memory speeds of like 7,600 megahertz is in LPDDR5, low profile, soldered direct to board.
Right onto it, yep.
It's because if you have SODIMM memory slots, they're too far away, and there's too many media transitions from traces on a circuit board into a socket itself, and then
off to the CPU,
and then jammed with a large enough contact pads on the memory module, so a human can insert it and make contact and make sure it has continuity on all 288 pins or whatever it is. Did I get it right that time?
262.
262. I thought that was DDR4.
No, DDR4 was 260. 262 is DDR5.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Where am I getting 288? I feel like 288 is number 2.
Anyway. 288. Oh wait. That's for DIMMs. That's for DIMMs, not SODIMMs.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. 288. Too many numbers. Whatever.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're approaching the Cat 5 level of maybe we need another solution. I don't think it's fiber, and I also don't think it's Cat 7.
No. Yeah.
Maybe we need more cables, and for copper links, we could totally do that. But for memory links, there's only so much space that you can cram in there where a human could still insert it into the form factor that we all know and love. Well, enter Samsung with what they're calling the LPCAMM. Now, they've taken a little bit of inspiration from Dell. Dell first made a module a couple years ago for DDR4 that tried to solve this very problem with, instead of having memory modules with generic, copper pins that you just inserted into a connector, they used basically an array like Velcro. It's a plug that's a low insertion force plug that works very much like Velcro does, where it interleaves traces and allows them to terminate.
Also, your toddler can use it, so it's Velcro because your toddler can use it.
Unfortunately, it's Velcro, but you still have to line up pin 1 with pin 1.
Yeah, I know. I was just joking. Obviously, it was a joke.
Anyway, the advantage to this is it gets the memory chips closer to the traces, which gets the traces closer to the CPU, and the less distance you have to travel, and the less media changes you have to make in that journey, the more signal integrity you will have.
Yeah.
So Samsung is saying that they are coming out with some LPDDR5X 6400 megahertz modules that'll deliver 7.5 gigabits per second of memory throughput on a space that's 60% smaller in size than a SODIMM slot. That's the golden ticket right there.
That's pretty cool.
Because this socket size, like I said, this has been around since...
It's been around for a long time.
The 90s.
Yes. It's been around for a long time.
Since the mid-90s. I have... Good Lord. No, I know PC 133 and PC 100 use this. I think it might go back even to like the EDO days, like SODIMM does.
Yes, it was. Went all the way to EDO.
Okay,
you're correct. Yeah, you're correct. Yeah.
No Wikipedia needed for me. I got this.
No, you got it up there. That's pretty good.
Yeah, because I was like, no, I swear I pulled memory modules out of a 386 laptop one time, and that wasn't PC 133.
No, that was not. It was EDO. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So SODIMM has been around that long, since like
that long.
1992.
It's been a long time. So, back then they I think the whole reason why they had this SODIMM is they basically had to reinvent to fit it in those form factors back then, because the chips that they had normally had at the time wouldn't work. They had to basically reinvent it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know which form factor is going to catch on. If Samsung's is going to catch on, if Dell's going to win out with their replaceable card, but at the end of the day, someone needs to do something. There needs to be a replaceable memory module, because soldering it on...
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's just not a solution that
Nobody likes that. Nobody likes that.
Right. So, very interesting. They're calling it LPCAMM. And like I said, it's very much like a series of Velcro where the whole thing will socket into it's a daughter board essentially that sockets into your motherboard and can even be screwed into place to make sure it maintains contact and everything else. But they're coming out with 128 gigabyte modules, and this is a dual channel module, by the way. This is dual 64 gig SODIMMs on a single PCB.
That's nice.
So it's dual channel, 128 gigs. You're not giving up bandwidth, you're not giving up performance, you're not giving up channels. You're simply eliminating a bottleneck. And the bottleneck right now is entirely physical.
This is just okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out when it was going to come out. They have 2014 is when they're trying to ready it for commercialization.
24.
Yeah, 2024. Sorry, 2024. Correct.
I'm sorry to make that correction. That one hurt me too.
2014. Yeah. We're living in the past.
Yes.
2024. Correct.
Yep. Yeah, so Dell's spec was called CAMM, the CAMM memory spec. And sorry, the close-up that I did was actually Dell. So Samsung's obviously has this little cutaway, but still has slots for screwing down and maintaining continuity. Not unlike M.2. I mean, M.2 is a daughter board PCB that we screw into place basically, to make sure it stays in place.
Yep.
So this was Dell's module. Again, not that dissimilar when you look at it. This one's a little bit more elegant, and I believe includes the memory controller, or the interface. So take some of the components off of the motherboard. Whatever's left on the motherboard that deals with memory, I don't even know, and puts it on the PCB. But yeah, very exciting. Very exciting.
Well, we'll see in a little bit. 2024 is not that far away.
Couple of months.
Of course, it's probably not going to come out till like late fall 2024 or something like that, but who knows? We'll see.
Denver chimes in with $10. Thank you very much, Denver. Much appreciated. If desktop DIMMs with longer traces and more contacts can reach 8,000, why do SO-DIMMs only reach 5,600 to 6,000? Same for DDR4. I had DIMM kits at 5,000 C17. The reason is power density and cooling. Kind of. The main problem is signal integrity. And the reason we see signal integrity issues is because the motherboard or the memory controllers for all of these CPUs is on the CPU itself. So the motherboard doesn't get to have a memory controller, and it's been this way since Nehalem. Nehalem was the first Intel part with a memory controller on board all the way back in 2008. Early 2009 is when they introduced it, and then Sandy Bridge on the consumer side, or sorry, I think it was the generation before Sandy Bridge that no one talks about. It was first generation Intel Core.
Yeah, I remember.
Because Sandy Bridge was second generation Intel Core.
No, I remember Sandy Bridge being like just really, yeah.
Yeah, Sandy Bridge was the big one that people were like, okay, I'll buy new crap.
Right.
But no, the first generation was weird. The i7 860 or some crap like that. But no, those are the first consumer chips that put the memory controller on board, and every single CPU that's come out ever since then from both platforms, AMD and Intel, have had memory controllers that were not on the motherboard. They weren't part of the chipsets. Also, those longer traces allow for better trace length, equalizing the pathing, better isolation from other traces. You can also put much thicker traces on desktop than you can on laptop. Size is a constraint on laptops.
Oh yeah, extremely.
And I'm sorry, but even most desktops are having a hard time hitting above 6,000. AMD in particular has a really hard time getting their memory controllers to hit 6,000 megahertz, let alone you've got to be really particular with Intel and really get into the weeds to get 7600 stable on an Intel platform.
Yeah.
So, and part of it's down to traces. It's down to pathways. It's less of an issue on desktop, like I said, because there's just more room and there's more layers, there's more room for more copper, and with more copper comes better signal integrity. In laptops,
you don't have to worry about it so much.
It's a lot smaller.
You really, you're talking tiny bits that you have to play with.
Yep. There's a lot.
There's a lot, yeah.
The higher up in performance expectations, speed, megahertz, signaling, etc. that you get, the more rules you have to follow.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what my video tomorrow talks about. Again, I'm not talking about memory in particular, but you can break a lot of rules with a 10-watt CPU that you cannot break with a 250-watt CPU. As far as cooling, memory, software, all kinds of things. Nehalem was X58, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, it wasn't
Demonic
Nehalem
Man.
because it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Nehalem is the X58 architecture. It is the
Yeah, before
i7 920.
There's Bonnell, which was before there, which was after Nehalem, and Westmere, and then Saltwell, and then it was Sandy Bridge.
Intel Core microarchitecture. We're going to start with. Or no, sorry.
What are we looking at?
I'm looking up Intel Core processor generation.
Okay.
Intel i7 as a brand name has applied to several families of the desktop and laptop 64-bit x86-64 processes using the Nehalem Westmere.
Westmere. Yeah, I did say Westmere. Sounds like something out of Game of Thrones.
Nehalem was X58, which was the first modern Intel CPU. Moving on from the Core 2 Duo, Core 2 Quad, it is the first one to integrate the memory controller on die. It is the first one to do a lot of different things. And it really is the first modern CPU, the i7 920. Moving on from there, you have Westmere, which made a later appearance in because originally you had the i7 920, the 950, and the 980. And you got up to 6 cores and 12 threads. Ooh.
Mm-hmm.
And then they had a second generation called Westmere. And Westmere was when they moved the architecture also into the server architecture. And so you got CPUs like the X5690. That was a Westmere CPU introduced in 2011, whereas Nehalem was introduced all the way back in 2008. You also got the first generation of Intel, first generation Intel Core CPUs. So that was the I series of CPUs with 3 digits.
Oh yeah.
So the i3 530, the i5 750, and the i7, the 860, and the all kinds of weird ones there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go, Westmere.
Westmere.
For some reason I thought they called it something different on desktop because Nehalem was the server and enthusiast line. And Nehalem was never had a consumer release.
Oh, they didn't? I thought that they did.
No. The i7 920 was an enthusiast CPU.
Was it? Okay.
It was $400. Of course it was an enthusiast CPU.
It
was the best thing that you could buy back then.
Because I remember it coming out and
$400 enthusiast.
It was like just no one was like, it was like the dream CPU for the time. The iCore 7 Extreme. Yes, okay, yes, now I remember those. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think I've put this one off long enough, or at least I've.
Yep. I'm gonna crack open.
So this one comes in a box.
Oh no! What is this?
So this was sent over by John. So thank you, Mr. Hops and Brews. So this is from Martin House Brewing.
Oh, and it's not a pickle beer?
It's not a pickle beer. This is the Columbiana. Rum barrel-aged imperial stout with cherries and coconut, clocking in at 12.4%. Now this says this box contains 2 12-ounce cans, but mine only came with 1 12-ounce can.
Well, he probably kept.
John, where is my second beer?
I think he snuck it already.
Yeah,
that was one because I've had many of the Martin House beers.
Yeah,
but every time I come over, John deems that I drink the weird, funky ones, not the super good ones.
Right. Yeah. So this is a Martin House,
which I have no problem with that. I honestly don't.
But it's not their their garlicky pickled
No.
hot dog marinated.
Which oh man, look at that. I can feel the thickness through the screen.
It's
like if that beer was twerking on the screen. It's so thick.
She thick with 2 C's.
Yeah,
that's what that is. A little bit of a red hue
I know, that's weird, right? It's like a sunrise there for a head.
Yeah. But
that's interesting.
You can't see the nucleation working, but I guarantee it is working.
Well, I can tell you this. Martin House does a great job. I ain't going to lie. A lot of their beers that I taste are really funky. I have tried some of their normal beers, and what I've had, I really like. So this is probably going to be really good.
We talk a lot about how coconut is one of the hardest flavors to maintain through a brewing process.
Yeah.
The yeast, the acidity of the mash, it devours that flavor. This smells like Malibu Black rum.
Oh, nice.
Like, this smells like I just opened a 5th of Malibu Black. Wow.
Well, as long as it doesn't taste like drinking straight Malibu rum.
You know, I've had worse beers than that too, though.
Yeah.
Little bit of a fruitiness to it too. So this is rum barrel aged
Imperial Stout with cherries and coconut. So
Imperial Stout was brewed with sweet cherry puree and flaked coconut, and then aged 3 to 5 months in rum barrels.
So this is very similar to one of our favorites, which is Pirate Stout, except they added cherries to it.
Yeah.
So
that cherry's poking through on the nose.
Is it?
Yeah.
And I think this is a higher ABV. I believe Pirate Stout is like a 10%, where this is 12.
Pirate Stout's 8.
Is it 8? Okay, so that's even lower. Okay.
Yeah, so this is a 12.
This is a higher, yeah.
Yeah.
How is that?
Oh, wow.
That's what I was expecting to hear.
I said thick with 2 C's. I'm going to append that to 3.
It's very thick.
Very thick.
Yeah.
We're bumping this up to "Oh Lord, She Comin'"
levels
man. Of thick. But man, coconut right up front, and when I mean coconut, I mean not Almond Joy, but Mounds. Very dark, very dark chocolate. Super savory too. Like a lot of times, a lot of these beers, they can have a little bit of that ABV bite can very easily creep forward,
right?
In the flavor.
It's 12%. You're probably gonna taste some little alcohol into it.
No,
there's none in there.
Yeah, usually when you get into this level of stout, and we usually refer to it as mellow. Is it mellow or not? This is super mellow. That ABV has not crept up and given this a forward bite. There's no I just did a shot of Jack feeling with this beer. It's I wonder what this 6% tastes like. Very dangerous.
Yeah, those are the dangerous kinds because you can really drink those.
But anyway, it's that super rich dark chocolate coconut right up front. Very savory. I'm not getting a lot of cherry. But I don't think that's a bad thing.
No.
Hold on. I'm going to do this again because I just took the one drink and I'm trying to like process everything that happened because there's a lot that happened. Okay, the cherry is on the very back end.
I wonder if you're going to pick it up.
Literally the cherry on top.
Is it room temperature right now, or is it kind of chilled?
It's still chilled. I left it in the box because I wanted it to stay fairly cold.
Right. Okay. I wonder if that cherry is going to come out as it warms up.
It may. It really might. But that cherry just kind of just kisses
right
the
there.
very
Well,
back
that's what
end.
you kind of want. You want a cherry on top.
Very
right?
very light cherry flavor.
Yeah.
The middle of it, I wasn't. Usually with rum barrel aging, you get a lot more of the sugars and molasses.
Yeah, you do.
You miss out on the oak and the maple and the woody flavor.
Is that there?
This is straight up Scotch in the middle of this. It's so good.
I wonder what kind of rum barrels they were aging them in. That'd be kind of interesting to find out. They don't really list it. I looked it up on Untapped. Don't give too many details. Like Martin House's most descriptions, they really don't give too many details. It just says rum barrel aged imperial stout with cherries and coconut.
Yeah.
Nothing much else than that. It'd be interesting to know, though.
See, now after a couple drinks, the cherry's becoming a little bit more pronounced. The time I got it both up front and kind of in the rear. It's this really weird thing, though, because, like I said, it's very savory up front. Yeah. It's very much, dark chocolate and coconut right up front.
I wonder if there's any salt in it at all. It'd be kind of interesting to know.
Maybe.
It doesn't say, but
maybe there might be a little salt in there. I'd be kind of surprised if there wasn't. But it kind of starts out super savory, and then it kind of opens up. It opens up into that wood flavor, and then comes up with kind of the fruited notes. But there's trying to explain the whole journey. It's
well,
weird.
If there's only one can in that box, I'm sure John's got it at his house.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go over there and try it.
Yeah. No, this is really good. Really good. Really dangerous.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's at 12%, 12.5.
Yeah.
And it's that delicious. I'm sure it's going to go down super easy.
Mm-hmm. Because, yeah, it opens up, like, everything gets out of the way for the next flavor. And so it really is a journey. Like, I always try to explain beer as like a journey, or where's it hit at this point in the flavor, beginning, middle, end. What's it doing now that it's warmed up? I really like, to be honest, Hops and Brews method of reviewing beer. I think it's the best way to review a beer. But this one, every single flavor has its own distinct moment, and you can feel it fading in one to the other, and you can feel a flavor getting out of the way to make room for the next one. And in the middle of it, it kind of opens up for that woody oak note to kind of pop in, and it pops in for about a second, and then the flavor goes both high and low with the cherry and maybe a little bit of like that vanilla molassesy note from the rum to finish it off. This is good. I don't do this often.
I would like to say that my double IPA from Rogue for $2.50 is as good, but I can't say that. I'm not saying it's bad.
Right.
I'm saying cost per flavor is pretty good, but my prediction of IPA malt liquor is pretty apt. It's pretty accurate. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
It's a little sweet. I can taste the alcohol in it. I can see why it's not that expensive, but overall, it's still not bad. Not going to be too bad.
I think that's fair. Yeah. No, I've heard it's really good. But you have to remember that you paid $2.50 for it.
Exactly. You have to pay. This is not. This first IPA I had, way better.
Right.
But given the cost difference.
But that's also kind of how I explain a lot of like the Hop Valley Cryo Stash. Or,
same thing. Yeah, same thing.
9.2, 9.6%. $2.50.
These aren't fancy beers, but they're pretty good. They're definitely better than like domestics, and only a small bit more.
Yep.
It's not that bad.
Is it finally time for me to get in a 100% homegrown Chinese market GPU to test out? It seems like every month I read about more threads doubling up performance from the month before when it comes to driver implementation, software optimization, all kinds of things. The potential is definitely here with a third at this point, a fourth player.
Fourth generation, yeah.
Trying to enter the market. So obviously you've got your incumbents with AMD and NVIDIA. And then you've got Intel kind of going like, hey, we're trying to get into this market too. We can make graphics cards. And to put it mildly, graphics driver development is very much an iterative process.
Oh, very much so, yeah.
You have to lean on the performance tweaks that you've made from previous architectures, previous generations. You have to know the ins and outs of every single API, how they're implemented, how those APIs are abused, and know your architecture inside and out, as well as what tweaks have you made in previous architectures, and where is this one different, and where is it better, where is it worse. So you have NVIDIA and AMD with literal decades of experience with high-end video driver implementation, design, writing, etc. And then you've got Intel coming in, and they've had some growing pains, but that was kind of expected. They haven't done high-end graphics implementations.
No.
Sure, Intel HD graphics and Iris were, they supported all the APIs because they had to.
Right. They didn't really give an honest effort, I don't feel. Not yet. Not until Arc.
Right, but they were also... If you tried to run the latest 3D games on them, they were buggy as all hell if they even had enough power to fire them up, let alone run them. And so it was never really a focus of Intel driver development.
Right. Until
they had to start kicking out their own GPUs, and they had enough power to run these things. And they went, oh, okay, now we have to run these drivers. I see what everyone's complaining about. Well, More Threads is an even smaller company than Intel with far fewer resources. And that's really been the crux of it, is like, it's getting to the point where just about anyone, I say anyone, there's only 4 companies doing it, can design graphics hardware out there. I mean, obviously there's Snapdragon and ARM processors and, Mali graphics and things like that. Yeah, there's other graphics designers out there, not at this scale, that can make desktop series graphics cards. And wouldn't you know it, the drivers are the most difficult part of it.
Yeah.
Well, as of the latest 230.40.0.1 GPU drivers featuring support for OpenGL 3.3 and several optimizations, they're starting to kind of put some things together. So in some of their latest testing, they see a 40% improvement in the CryEngine benchmark that they've done inside of DirectX 11, as well as a 30% uplift in games like Project Cars. So obviously what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a GPU for the local market, that is China, 2 billion people in China. And they're kind of starting to try out esports. If we don't have to rely on NVIDIA for esports cafes or leagues or teams or anything like that, can we build something in-house that does it? Well, they've been testing games like Valorant and seeing some actually pretty decent results out of this thing. It's not nearly as efficient as NVIDIA and AMD and Intel cards are, but at the same time, this is not an AMD, Intel, or NVIDIA card. And
I don't think they're selling them at those price levels either. They're really cheap, right?
They're in domestic market, in the Chinese market, they're like $200 or $250. If you want to import one into the US, the cheapest I've been able to find was like $550. Which is the reason you haven't seen one on the channel yet. Is they're just obscenely expensive for a one-off video. Man, I wish my budget was more than like $100 per video, because it's not.
Yeah.
So, but obviously drivers are going to continue to improve. They've got 4K up and running on these now.
Wow, that's nice.
They're working on a bunch of different games. I mean, the release notes are very impressive and should tell you everything you need to know about how many resources are actually going into this. They're resolving issues with crashing at 3D Mark 11. Not even 3D Mark like the Steam version, but 3D Mark 11 from like the Windows Vista days.
Yeah, so that's a while ago.
Their card was crashing at 4K when you ran 3D Mark 11. Guess what? They fixed that in the latest release. Inability to launch NBA 2K Online 2. Guess what? They fixed that. Occasional graphics issues during shooting scenes in Apex Legends. Fixed that. Narkara Blade Point. Screen flickering. Heaven and Valley. Unigine benchmarks. Running Heaven in DirectX 11. Occasionally flickered at 4K. And resolve system crashes when using OBS to capture Genshin Impact gameplay. So, I mean... they're going into all kinds of different use cases, generic use cases, everyday use cases for graphics cards, and they're patching them out. And that's how you go at it. You take one patch at a time. You got to get
one little issue at a time.
Yep.
And chip away at it. That's kind of how most development goes anyway, though. So kind of makes sense.
Yeah. So... kind of impressive what they've been able to do. I mean, like I said, there are other manufacturers of GPUs out there. You've got Snapdragon with their internal ARM-powered GPU. You've got some of the other single-board computers using Mali graphics chips, some variant of that, which is kind of an open standard ARM-based, but different than Snapdragon's implementation.
Right.
But you're talking about 2-watt graphics processors, maybe 5 if you're really lucky. You know, you're not talking about dumping all of the parallel compute. You're not talking about thousands of compute units. You're not talking about hundreds of watts of compute in graphics. And when you get up to that level, to be able to run AAA games, you know,
that's an achievement.
It's an achievement, and so. Yeah. Is it the best thing ever? No. Should you swap
we're still on fourth place.
No. No. I'd be really intrigued to try one, though.
But it's something to look out for. It's definitely something to look out for. If it gets to a point and the import gets a little cheaper, it could be, in the future, it could be a good budget card.
Yeah. Honestly, if the import gets down to like the $300 range, $300 to $350, I'll probably snag one, because... this is in my wheelhouse for things that I review.
Yeah.
It's just, you know, do you have a full project in mind that you can get 3, 4, 5 videos out of, a la, you know, some of my AliExpress and server PC builds and things like that? Or is this a single video where the budget's a little bit more constrained? So, yeah. But interesting, to say the least.
Yeah. Something to look out for.
You know what else you can look out for? Today's video sponsor, Linode.
Linode.
That's right. Hold on, where's my sponsor link? There it is.
There it is.
Today's episode of Talking Heads is brought to you by Linode. Hosting your own servers also means you get to host all your own problems. Even the most skilled network engineer will tell you you should decentralize your network. So why not host your services with Linode? If it runs on Linux, it'll run on Linode. That includes software for most of the tutorials on my channel, like how to run your own ad blocking, recursive DNS servers, VPN gateways, your own cloud-based Plex servers, and more. They offer shared CPU plans for as little as $5 per month and can scale as high as your needs go, whether it be virtualized hosting, dedicated enterprise GPUs, or NVMe block storage. Even if you do host your own servers, you can use Linode to keep a backup off-site, because remember, RAID is not a backup.
Not a backup.
Linode is also expanding at light speed, with 12 new global data centers going live before the end of 2023. Visit linode.com/craftcomputing and get a $100 60-day credit just for signing up for a new account. Again, that's linode.com/craftcomputing, and a huge thanks to Linode for sponsoring this episode.
Bless you, Linode. Bless you.
Thank you, Linode. Linode just bought us around.
That's right. Well, the amount of money they gave us went to the Imperial IPA Rogue. That'd buy us like a whole keg full, I'm guessing.
You know what? For the amount that I get for... I could definitely afford a couple Deal with the Devils.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
So
that's good.
Yeah. If they're buying rounds of Deal with the Devil...
Yeah. That's not cheap stuff, too.
If you know, you know.
Yep.
Anyway, moving on, we do have some beer news. The Great American Beer Festival happened this last weekend, and all of the medals were handed out.
Yep.
not to brag, Oregon took home 23 of them.
That's right. We did. We took down. I think for all the states, I think we were third. The only one higher than us was Colorado and California.
Right.
Which is kind of to be expected. I mean,
right.
I'm not saying there's a bias out there. It's hosted in Colorado.
Yeah,
there might be a bias, but
Colorado, great beer scene. Texas,
yes.
California,
pretty
good beer scene.
San Diego, I'm going to say San Diego beer scene is great. Is really great. Yes, Colorado. I mean, I don't know.
Sierra Nevada, Stone. Yes.
Well, Sierra Nevada's more north. It's Chico, but
they're still Stone, California.
That's true. Russian River is also California.
Russian
River. Belching Beaver, all those places.
Yep.
Colorado's got some good ones. I don't know, but when I want to say, I think I may be a little biased too, but just in the local area that I live in, I find better breweries just wandering around Portland than I do wandering around Denver. Because my brother lives in Denver, and I've visited him several times, and we've gone on like just brewery tours. And it's like, oh, here's one over here. I've never tried it before. Let's try it. A lot of those were just like, eh.
Mm-hmm.
But when I did that to Portland, there was more like, oh, this is really good. Oh, let's go over here. Oh, this is really good. Oh, let's go over here. Oh, this is really good too.
Yeah.
Like we had better.
You can hop to 3 to 4 to 5 of them via an Uber, and
they were all pretty impressive.
Right.
Whereas like Colorado, I felt that they were all kind of like, that could be my bias going through too. But still, we got 23 out of them all. And one of my favorite beer styles, barley wines, went to Oregon too. So
yes.
Ninkasi of all places, which I've never had their barley wine before. I want to seek this out. I think it was what was it
Ice
called?
Raptor.
Ice Raptor,
yes.
Which I've never heard before. But I gotta find that thing.
Yeah. So Ninkasi, Eugene, Oregon brewer, founder of the Craft Beer Alliance. They took home the gold medal for barley wines as a whole, old ale or strong ale or barley wine. So I mean, that's some fierce competition.
No, it is.
And
it's kind of
yeah.
It's kind of funny. I mean, some of the other ones you would think, like Fremont, they do great stuff.
Yeah.
I would have thought they would have been in the.
Well, I mean, you've got Pelican that's also always throwing down barley wines. You've got Fort George that throws down one or two of them a year. I mean, there is a number of really good barley wines out there. Yeah. But Ninkasi kind of out of left field with. I
know. I was super surprised too. So I I hope they just don't have that at the brewery, because that means I have to drive down to Eugene to try it. I hope they ship it somewhere.
Eugene's not that far.
No, it's not that far, but
to drive and then drink a barley wine, it's a little far.
Yeah, I know. It's like I'm gonna drive down there and drink a bunch of barley wine. I'm gonna be staying down there probably.
Yes.
Let's go find a hotel, and then we'll have some barley wine, and then we'll come back. But yeah, it's kind of a nice little site they have set up. If you live in a different state, you want to see what your state has to offer, what they've placed at, what other states had, what styles. If your favorite is IPA, let's go see who won the IPA.
What I found really funny is, Oregon is hop mecca. We grow 40% of the world's hops, with Washington growing another 20%.
Yeah.
And so it's like, if you make something with hops, it came from the Northwest.
Oh yes. Completely.
What's really funny is because of that, Oregon, and for the longest time, Oregon was like, every beer we make is an IPA, because holy crap, we make some great IPAs.
We sweet IPAs, yes.
What I find amazing is we took home gold medals in a lot of dark beers this year.
Yes, I know, which is kind of weird.
So Breakside Cheat Codes was another one. American Stout took home the gold medal for Breakside Brewing up in Portland. We got Ninkasi coming in with the barley wine. A lot of dark beers. Oregon took home the crown this year.
Very surprising. And I was like looking at the IPAs because I wanted to see if Oregon hit any of the IPAs. They did not.
Right.
A bunch of and I was looking at it, says a bunch of breweries I've never even heard of.
Deschutes won the bronze for the Brett beer.
Which is weird, right?
Hopworks Urban Brewery won it for ESB. Took home gold medal for ESB.
Which I love ESBs, but they're very hard to come by.
Right. So yeah, it's just kind of funny. Like, you know, we're known as IPAs and blah 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 and whatnot, and here we come in stealing all of the dark beer awards.
Yeah, I think they might just be like, let's buck the trend.
Yeah,
let's go buck the trend.
And it could be, you know, we've taken home golds in IPAs for the last 8 years.
Yeah,
you know, maybe the style's wearing a little thin. Maybe there's only so much you can do. Maybe the hazies in New England have it this time around. You know what? Let's do something different.
I think a lot of them came from California this year, but there was one from Lincoln, Nebraska that won a Juicy Hazy IPA award they had a silver. The gold was in California by 1852 Brew, which I've never heard of before. Yeah, it's very interesting to see who won, what kind of styles they had, where they came from. Very, very interesting. Yeah, it was just kind of a fun. I think I spent like a good 30 minutes today just messing with the website, seeing who won, who didn't.
Yeah. Yep. No, I'm kind of thumbing through right now a little bit. We won for a lot of different German beers.
Yeah.
So we took gold in American Stout, American Sour, Belgian Fruit Beer.
Yeah.
ESB, or Extra Special Bitter.
Yeah.
Munich Style Helles, or Weyeast. We took it for barley wine, other strong beer.
Hey, those are good too.
And wood and barrel aged strong beer.
Wow. It's a lot of strong, big ABV beers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to stop calling, you know, Oregon the you know, IPA mecca. I think we're gonna have to go with, like, you know, double-digit ABV.
Yeah, that's right. Could be. Yeah, I mean, maybe we're just trying to, like, okay, we want to buck the trend. We don't want to be the people known for, like, just IPAs. I mean, literally, we basically made the Northwest IPA flavor.
Yeah,
we did.
Yep.
And
Citroen Mosaic Hop.
Oh yeah, all came from us. That's right. Yeah, it was us.
Little Shindook on the side if you're feeling adventurous.
But now we're outsourcing that to everybody else, and they're making it now. So we're going like malty beers, big ABV beers, dark stout beers. We're trying to shake things up.
Yep. You know what else shook things up today? I opened up Steam.
Oh yes.
I opened up Steam. And there's an interesting number next to Counter-Strike.
That's correct.
It didn't say go next to it anymore.
It didn't say go anymore. It said 2.
It was said this. 2.
Yeah. That's right.
Valve did announce, like last year, sometime, maybe, Counter-Strike 2 is in development.
Yeah.
And it's going to use the Source 2 engine. It's kind of all we got. We kind of figured something was coming.
Oh yeah,
because Valve made a big deal about the Source 2 engine, mainly on the VR side of things, with the launch of Half-Life Alyx and things like that back in 2021.
Yeah.
But you know, they've touted Source 2 as like being the next level of development platform for Valve. They've got a number of first-party titles lined up. Oh, one of them is Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike will come to Source.
Okay, eventually, yeah.
Eventually. It's in the work. And then it just launched today.
It just came out.
Not even an announcement, not even like in 3 months, get ready. No, it's just like, oh no, we're just going to preload it. Go have fun.
I know. I was super surprised today. I was looking at my updates on Steam and I'm like, Counter-Strike 2? Counter-Strike 2?
Right.
Where did this come from? Like no warning, no nothing? So like even on their front page this morning, it was like, oh, we're doing the Shump Festival. I'm like, okay, that's cool. And then for the Shump Festival, we're gonna release Counter-Strike 2.
Oh, by the way, Counter-Strike 2. Yep.
But I mean, it was kind of a out of left field surprise. And I think we were talking about this a little bit earlier before the show started, how technically there's been 3 Counter-Strikes, and this should technically be Counter-Strike 3, but Steam they never name things 3s, obviously.
Right.
So there was a Counter-Strike mod, which doesn't really count because I don't think it was technically
right. We were talking about the history of Counter-Strike. Steve and I were
yeah.
trying to recall because we lived it.
Yeah.
So obviously Half-Life was released in 1998. The original Half-Life.
Yeah.
And one of the cool things about it was very moddable.
Very moddable.
It was
tons of mods coming out for
it. They left all the config files unencrypted. You could do whatever you wanted with it, and the engine went, yeah, okay, cool, I'll play with that. Yeah. And so someone made a total conversion mod, which is what we used to call them, for Half-Life, called Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike, yeah.
Valve loved it so much they hired them and made it an internal product. Yep. And I think in 2002 it became an official Valve product, Counter-Strike.
Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike Source, yeah. Well, I think
no.
Counter-Strike 1.6 is what
Counter-Strike 1.6 I think is when it because they released it for PC in 2002 as an official standalone product, Counter-Strike 1.6. And then it was also part of the Orange Box in 2004 when it came to consoles with the release of Half-Life 2 and games like that. Or maybe that was further. I don't remember. I think Orange Box was further, but yeah.
I don't think it came with Orange Box,
but yeah. Anyway, it went through quite a few major revisions. One of the first was Condition 0, was the first like major content add for Counter-Strike, and that came somewhere around 2006 or so.
I think it's 2004.
2005, yeah, something like that.
Something around there, yeah.
Anyway, in 2012, Valve really shook things up, and they ported Counter-Strike into the Source engine, which is the Half-Life 2 engine. Now, Half-Life 2 was an old game at that point.
Yeah.
But the Source engine was the engine that powered games like Left 4 Dead, and so on and so forth, and had actually been very further developed by Valve as an engine as a gaming development platform in the interim from Half-Life 2's release up until 2012. So it made a lot of sense to port it to an engine that could handle modern graphics cards, modern resolutions, modern textures, modern things without crashing, because the original Counter-Strike was developed for ATI 3D Glide. Or 3D Rage cards. Right. Sorry, I just confused 3DFX.
TNT cards.
TNT 2s and 3DFX and 3D Rage cards. Wasn't necessarily cut out for a 9800 GTX Plus or a GTX 260. And so giving it the Source engine treatment brought it up to modern specs and allowed it to play with modern APIs, even though it's still just a DirectX 9 title.
Yeah.
It got another content drop, what was that, 2017, 2018, with Counter-Strike Go, Global Objective. Or Global Operative, or whatever the...
Global Offensive.
Global Offensive, thank you.
It's Counter-Strike Go, yeah.
Counter-Strike Go. It's all anyone ever calls it is Go, so... I remember Global, but it was Global in my brain.
Counter-Strike Go.
Yeah. Got another content ad, and we're like, oh, cool. Last update Counter-Strike will ever see.
Yeah.
As it turns out, we were kind of correct, but for all the wrong reasons, because Counter-Strike 2 is everything that Counter-Strike had, and a lot more. But it's also been ported to the Source 2 engine, a la Half-Life Alyx.
And it replaces Counter-Strike Go, so you can't play Counter-Strike Go anymore.
Right.
Counter-Strike
Go is dead.
Yeah, it can't be considered Counter-Strike 3 because Global Offensive doesn't exist anymore. So they just replaced it, basically. It's a rename with a bigger engine, all new tech, still the same game. I think there's new maps. I played a little bit before we started the show. I played some Dust 2 because it's the map that I know the best. Actually, I still did pretty good.
I got to dive into Mirage. That's my map.
Mirage is a good one too.
Yeah.
But I thought I was going to suck at it. But I held my own. I did pretty good. But yeah, no, it just came out of nowhere, came out of left field, and slapped us right in the face today.
Yep. Yeah. No, I opened up Steam and I was looking for a game to play, and it's like, holy crap, that's a different number. Why is there a number after my Counter-Strike?
Go is not 2.
I haven't seen that since 1.6. What is this?
Yeah.
So yeah, Counter-Strike 2. Go have fun.
It took years. So 1.6 came out in 2000, and it took 23 years for it to get from 1.6 to 2.
Yeah. Yes. All right. I promised a little bit of Star Trek talk.
A little bit of Star Trek. Yes.
I think we have to talk some Star Trek.
Okay.
So Star Trek, they've been rocking the boat, so to speak, on some of their things over the last couple of years. Now, obviously, Star Trek was kind of left for dead after the TNG crew wrapped their final movie with Insurrection. That was, 2003, 2005?
Something like that,
and they went, Enterprise didn't do that well. It's not what the modern, sitcom or drama series connoisseur is looking for in a television program these days.
Right.
So it just kind of sat dormant for a number of years.
Mm-hmm.
Now, obviously, Star Trek as a whole was kind of rebooted in 2009 with J.J. Abrams' Star Trek, with the Kelvin universe.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
To whatever extent you want to call that a reboot, a reimagining, good, bad, positive, negative. I think there's good things about it. It brought some previously fringe Star Trek enjoyers or casual viewers into the Star Trek universe and said, oh, look, it can be quirky and fun and a little bit modern, and I like the humor, and I like...
the lens flares?
I like the lens flares. So it did kind of reawaken Star Trek. Now, since then, we got Discovery, and it's like,
yeah.
Which felt very much like CBS going, what if CSI took place in space?
Yeah, something like that, yeah. It wasn't quite
What if Scorpion was on a spaceship?
Yeah. Wasn't quite good.
I'm sorry, Discovery just was not good. And I think it's because they didn't hire the right people.
No.
God bless everyone who worked on Discovery. I know your hearts were probably into it. I know the actors' hearts were into it. I accept Star Trek Discovery as canon. If I see Mary walking down the streets, walking down the hallway of a Star Trek convention, I'm going to give her the Klingon salute just like I would Worf. For God's sakes, it's still Star Trek. You're still in universe.
But it seemed like a sci-fi show with the Star Trek label just slapped over the top of it.
Exactly. But even more disservice than that, it was sci-fi, but they tried to make it like this, 15 episode, one large overarching story, a la 24, bringing in all of the elements of popular television. So you've got your 24, your CSI, your Scorpion, your hackers, your Mr. Robot. Oh no, we've got a sequel leak in our engineering core. If you can't even get the technobabble right, and the reason it's called technobabble is because of freaking Star Trek. Like putting too much air in a balloon. Like if you can't even get the technobabble right, it's not Star Trek. Star Trek technobabble has canon within it. And if you don't respect the canon, you're going to lose all of the enthusiast fans.
The hardcore fans,
So Discovery, better or worse, it was a thing. However, since Discovery, there's been kind of a renaissance of Star Trek shows. And so, obviously, we got Star Trek Picard, which you can... I've been well on record of like C-, B+ for the first 2 seasons, or C-, B-
three is
first
3 is
seasons.
A++.
3 is A+++++++.
Yeah, it's great.
It's lowest ranking episode of 7 of 9, and I'm not giving that a number score.
Yeah.
It's just 7 of 9. So yeah, Star Trek Picard season 3. Holy crap, amazing. What we didn't get out of Discovery, we got in a spin-off of Strange New Worlds, which
Strange New Worlds is great too.
Reimagined Captain Pike and Spock and Uhura and the original like 5-year mission and
right. It's more episodic. Like it's a mix between Next Generation and the original series. It's very good. They got some great stuff.
And I think that's where Star Trek needs to live and breathe, is in that
so
episodic character development.
Yeah.
What happens in the daily lives that is just extraordinary.
You can have a couple of overarching episodes, 1 or 2 part episodes if you want to.
Right.
Next Generation did that. That's totally fine.
Deep Space Nine did this to some great effect. And I've said this as many times. Name me a better season of television than 4, 5, 6 of DS9.
Well, I remember back in the 90s, especially like just to offshoot, like back in
we haven't even talked about what we're here to talk about. So
I know. I just want to get this out of the way, because like back in the 90s, there was an interesting storytelling thing where it was not quite episodic, but it was not like all overarching. They had I would say keystone episodes.
Yes.
That told an overarching story, but everything in between was the episodic slice of life type of episodes. Deep Space Nine did it very well.
Yes.
X-Files did it really well.
X-Files did it amazingly well as well. That's one that never gets...
There's a bunch of
Stargate did it amazingly well as well.
Amazing well too. Yeah, I thought that was a better way of telling a story, and the whole like, oh no, there's this giant overarching story that we're trying to tell seems to have taken over modern television.
If it's the only plot point, then you now have one plot point. Congratulations.
Right. And it gets boring.
Yeah.
It just gets there's
and back in the 90s when you had Stargate and DS9 and all those going literally against each other in time slots. Yeah. Like the Thursday 8 p.m. time slot, how hot was that time slot?
Oh yeah, it was big.
You had DS9 going at it with the Dominion War against Stargate over on the Sci-Fi, or no, it was on Cinemax at the time. I believe.
Was it Cinemax?
I think it was Cinemax. It wasn't.
I thought it was UPN. Wasn't it UPN?
No, UPN was Voyager.
Oh yeah, UPN was Voyager.
UPN was Voyager. No.
And Voyager kind of had the same thing too, but not as much.
Right. They didn't do the
episodic
as
to get
well. Their episodic kind of went off the rails more often than not, but still good. I still respect it as 90s Trek. But you would have. Remember, these were 25 episode seasons, and so you get a new episode literally every week for half a year.
Yeah.
And when I say like they had these huge overarching stories, they do like 7 to 10 episodes on the overarching story in a 25 episode season, and the other 15 were like Keiko's having a hard time teaching first grade.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And we loved it for that because it gave it a sense of humanity and realism.
Right, and you got to know the other characters better. They always had an episode that focused on a certain character, and you learned about that character, and they had good character development by that. So yeah, it was really good that way, I think.
How else are we going to learn about the struggle between Keiko and Bajoran Karen?
Yeah, exactly.
There's no cultural overtones here. It's just a religious zealot who thinks that the only way to teach people is the way that her religion teaches, which is completely anti-science.
I mean, also with like Deep Space Nine, you had that's where you learn all about the Ferengi subculture.
Yeah.
Like Ferengis were invented as the bad guy in the original series of Star Trek: The Next Generation, but you didn't know anything about them until Deep Space Nine, and
they were a savage race.
Yeah,
of like skinners and hunters.
You didn't know anything about their culture until Deep Space Nine really went into their lore.
Same thing with the Cardassians. I mean, you've got Gul Dukat not officially making an appearance in TNG, but literally his character, same actor, making an appearance of like this authoritarian, militaristic, society of backstabbers. And what's it like living day to day as a Cardassian? Well, now we get Garrick.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've spent 10 minutes on the history of Star Trek that everyone already knew. That has been well trotted, especially on this show. Star Trek has been bucking the trend as of late. Lower Decks.
Very good.
Holy
Very
hotness. I love Lower Decks because they don't take themselves seriously.
Nope,
they make jokes at themselves, but they still take themselves seriously enough to put on a full-length production, episodic things, character development, characters you care about, deeper plot points, and more important overarching plot points that are simplistic in the Star Trek universe, but live or die for the characters that are involved. And so it's amazing.
And tons of references to previous series, previous lore and stuff like that. So they're always giving winks to the fans, stuff that Trek fans just eat up and love. It's a great show. Yes.
Anyway, Lower Decks gave way to short treks, which were like 5 to 8 minute snippets of like the daily life in the Star Trek universe. The very first one that was published was this little girl making a vlog about how her and her mom live on Mars in the Utopia shipyards. And her mom builds starships, and she goes to school every day. And this is what it's like. And one of the early scenes is they're video chatting. They're like FaceTiming each other. And the girl sticks out her tongue and licks licks the entirety of her nose. Like, not just like, my daughter can touch the tip of her nose with her tongue. This girl as a Martian was like, and then they share a laugh together because like, oh, you're so funny. And it was cute. It was very cute in like a universe building way. It's not something I can go out of my way to watch, but it was funny.
Yeah.
Enter very short treks. Now, very short treks are 2 to 3 minute snippets.
Yeah.
And they're done in the art style of Star Trek, the animated series.
Yes. So like think 1970s, 80s Hanna-Barbera is kind of that style.
Yeah. 10 frame per second animation. And here's where I think Star Trek has gone a bit too far off the rails. This might be the worst thing Star Trek's ever done, including the animated series, which was not great. The animated series tried to be Lower Decks. It tried to be funny. It tried to be absurd. And
I mean, the short treks was trying to be
no. The original animated series tried to be.
I watched the original animated series. I think they were trying to be, and I wouldn't say recently. I've rewatched it. I would say in the last like couple of years. And I think that they were trying to be a little more lighthearted version of the original series, something that's more consumable for little kids because it was aimed at little kids.
Right.
And it actually worked because at the time my son, who was very young, actually liked watching them. He was sitting there watching them with me, and he liked them.
Yeah.
But these are not like that. These are absolutely not like this at all.
So this is all I'm going to show. This is just the Star Trek intro.
Yeah.
So first off, it's very obvious they're going at about 15 frames per second. That's not a problem. It's a stylistic choice. I don't mind it.
Sure.
I don't mind it.
The Harvey Birdman thing or something like that.
Right, exactly. What they've done is they've intentionally compressed the audio so it sounds like it was recorded in the 1970s. Yeah. And so they're going full on stylistic of like, we're not even going to use a good soundtrack. We're going to make it sound like it's playing on an old record player using an Adobe plugin. So from the very intro, I'm going, my ears aren't agreeing with this. I'm not thrilled on my Antlion in-ear monitors. From there, here I can show some still frames. Yeah. Some of the animation is very good. I love the drawings of the NX-01, the original Enterprise and whatnot. Yeah. And then you come in and it's very stylized. It's the animated series, very simplistic.
Yeah.
Hey, look, there's Archer, there's T-Pole. Like, I recognize the characters on screen right away. Cool. You've done your job as an animator of conveying what I should be looking at.
Yeah.
The problem is the absurdity of
the humor. Yeah. Yeah, they're going a little over the top.
The first one was kind of funny. I will say the first one was kind of funny, because it's a series of computer end program. We're on the holodeck and we're watching something play out. only to be like computer and program. See, I told you those guys are really cool. Computer and program. Yeah, see, you know, they were doing this thing. So it's like this Inception level hologram,
right, kind of thing. Yeah,
that goes out to
Next
Riker and Deanna on the holodeck watching Archer, to Computer Pause program. Now it's Quark and Garrick who are watching them. And look, I told you they could totally be faked into joining the war, even though that's not the scene they were watching. That fades out to Lower Decks, which I love that Garrick is sipping on a root beer while Mariner and Tindy are watching. And it goes out and out and out from there. And it's not necessarily a bad concept, and I actually found this one kind of funny. My problem is the next three, and they get bad.
Next subsequent ones,
so there's Worst Contact, there's Holiday Party, and there's To Skin a Cat.
Yeah.
Worst Contact is Will Riker on the Enterprise D, as the commanding officer.
There's a lot of booger humor in that one.
Beaming down to make first contact with a warp culture and saying, hey, now that you've discovered warp, we welcome you into the United Federation of Planets. There's 1,000 alien species that are more than willing to, or that want to meet you and whatnot. Anyway, the dude's sitting there picking his nose and then reaches out and there's a booger on his hand. And, did you just pick your nose? Of course, it's a sign of respect in our culture. And they look around and there's boogers smeared on every console and every wall, and they're touching it and they're grossing out and whatnot.
Yeah.
It was not great.
No.
And it ended with Will breaking the Prime Directive, shooting the warp core, and going, well, looks like you're not ready yet. Sorry, looks like you got a kinks to work out. Don't call us, we'll call you. And then beaming back and then warping away. Yeah. And it's like, okay, that was kind of funny, but not coming from Will Riker. If that was on Lower Decks, it'd be funny.
Yeah.
It was not Lower Decks. That was Next Generation. What are you doing here?
They were definitely trying to go for, like, because you were saying they're
humor rolled into Star Trek, and it just doesn't
they were redoing, because that's what Harvey Birdman was. Harvey Birdman was like they're taking an old obscure Hanna-Barbera character and putting him in really obscure situations and made it funny, and they introduced other Hanna-Barbera, but that was like absurdist humor. I think they're trying to do that here.
Holiday Party really was probably the worst. Where it's Spock trying to relate
Spock
to humor.
Trying to be funny. Yeah.
And
that one wasn't funny at all.
I will now show you a blooper reel where if small mishaps are funny, then larger mishaps must be even funnier. Yeah. Logic dictates. And Spock, someone getting cut in half isn't hilarious. And then he's like, well, let me show you this next one, which is even more hilarious. And it's honestly, it's his girlfriend dumping him for another guy. And
not that I would think that it would be funny, but that would work better for Data, not for Spock.
Right. It didn't. It doesn't play. Now they did get the voice actors to voice Hemmer, and it's Bruce Horrick and Ethan Peck and Celia Rose, and you know it's the actual people from Lower Decks that are voicing these characters, and it's like.
I know.
It's not good. It's really not good.
Yeah. Maybe they'll get better. We'll see. I don't know.
The episode Holiday Party is drawing some parallels to the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Yes. Yeah.
And when I read that title, I went, "Wow, that's a low bar." Yeah. And then I watched all 4 of the very short treks, and I went, "You're not far off," because Holiday Special is the worst thing that Star Wars ever produced in the history of Star Wars.
I don't think these Star Trek shorts are on the same level.
That's because it didn't air for 90 minutes yet.
Yeah, that's true.
If you put 90 minutes of very short treks against the Holiday Special,
if all of the holidays, if all these short treks equal into 90 minutes, and I watch them end to end, and they are just as bad, then I would say yes.
The other part of this is there's something. Don't hit me. Don't hurt me. Don't yell at me.
All right.
There's something innately charming about the Holiday Special, about being a 1970 made-for-TV, no special effects budget, Mark Hamill just got out of a motorcycle accident.
Right,
and very
right,
much
yeah.
looks like it.
Tons of makeup on, yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do 10 minutes of Chewbacca speaking in Wookiee to his family with no subtitles. Like, there's something innately charming about thinking that would fly in 1970.
Chewbacca's father-in-law.
They dumbed this down to look like it was supposed to be charming in 1970.
Yeah, they were like I said, they were trying to go for
this was retroactively degraded. Like I said, they compressed the audio and added a filter so it warbles a little bit.
Yeah.
They got the original voice actors of all these different characters. They got Armin Sherman, and they got
right.
Riker, and they got Deanna, and they got Hemmer, they got Spock, they got Uhura, they got T'Pring.
They got everybody.
They got everybody to do these voices. And nowhere along the way did they go, that's not a good idea.
Well, I wonder if they got them while they were filming episodes and like, hey, we got this side project. Can you just go over here and just voice these real quick? And they're like, yeah, sure, okay, we'll do that.
You know, I'm never one to begrudge anyone a payday. And if I were Ethan Peck, the voice actor or the actor of Spock, I'd go, you said $50,000, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah, you can tarnish my reputation.
Cool.
For this, huh? Yeah.
I'm gonna cut everyone in half with transporter accidents and make it sound humorous. Like, that sounds amazing. Yeah. So I don't begrudge the actors for being in it. I begrudge whoever greenlit this project because it's not good. The animated series was already the worst thing that Star Trek's ever done. And trying to equal the greatness of the animated series, oof.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
you're aiming lower than Discovery.
We'll see. We're aiming lower than Discovery. Yeah. I don't know. I still think that the original animated series, I kind of recommend you rewatch it. Rewatch it again. It's not as bad as you think.
I think going back, because I've seen most of the episodes of it. I think going back and thinking of it in that retrospection for the time.
You gotta think it in the terms of because it was animated in the 70s. Era. Yeah. It's not that bad.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
Yeah, it's Jetsons at 12 FPS.
Yeah,
like it just is what it is. Like, hold on this holodeck scene. Let's beam this person up. I think there's 4 frames of animations for her hands.
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right. Yeah, there's not that much. Yeah,
and I can live with that. You know, if that's your art style and whatnot, and you're still getting the point across, I don't mind. I've seen anime with fewer frames.
Right.
And so awesome. But I'm not a fan. No, and the humor in Lower Decks comes from a place of endearment. Comes from a place of understanding the
lore behind everything.
The lore behind it and poking fun at some of the idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, this is going obscurus. This is like going obscurus humor with Star Trek is what it's going.
Right.
And it doesn't really gel well, is what I'm saying.
Right. And throwing the occasional shock humor joke in.
If one of these...
hey Mariner, we found your contraband. There was a batless, some ramen ale, a tribble. That's for personal use. Like, throwing the obscurist in there, in the ball of references, totally works. Well, Spock not understanding that cutting someone in half didn't work. That is the Orville, the nicotine, and cutting off someone's leg.
That's what I was just gonna say. Like, if this showed up in something like Robot Chicken, that would make more sense.
Right.
Because this is like, okay, we're trying to be, crazy outside the box, obscure.
We're going off the rails on purpose,
right?
To serve a purpose.
This is like sponsored by Star Trek creators, and it's like, hey, we're creating
on StarTrek.com.
Yeah, I know.
This is made by Paramount on Paramount Plus.
Yeah. This seems out of place for them as a marketing thing.
Yeah, with as good as their IP has been doing lately.
Yeah.
Man, this is just a black eye.
Yeah, it seems weird.
It's not good. Anyway, that's our review of Very Short Treks. I hope we don't have to revisit them.
Well, I think I don't know how many there's supposed to be, but there's only 4 or 5 this time.
There's 4 out right now.
I don't know how many there's supposed to be total.
Yeah.
The backlash might mean this might be the only ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, This has been episode 303 of Talking Heads. Join us every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific time for the latest in beer and tech news. Follow me on the social medias at Craft Computing. You can't follow Steve. He doesn't exist.
I don't.
He doesn't.
On Discord only.
Right.
Only.
Jump on over to craftcomputing.store. Pick yourself up a pint glass. And in fact, you can get the Craft Computing pint glass or the elusive Hops and Brew pint glass. Both are available now and is actually the best way to help support the channel. Even more than the Patreon, even more than watching my videos. Go buy merch. Like, seriously.
Collect them, race them, trade them.
Anyway, if you do want to help support the channel and want a little non-tangible benefit, join the Patreon. You'll get access to the Discord server. You can chat with myself, John, Rhett, Steve, all the hosts from Talking Heads, and join the awesome community that has formed over there. Gets you direct access to me. Ping me. I'll show up.
Yeah, we'll be there.
Yeah, we'll be there. All of us. We have a Craft Computing hosts at. If you want to ask one of us a question but don't know who, at Craft Computing hosts, one of us is awake. I guarantee it.
Probably.
Probably. The hours of 3 to 6 in the morning get a little sketchy, but beyond that, one of us is awake.
Beyond that, we're there.
So, anyway, thank you all so much for watching.